without any further ado, I would like to introduce our next performer, Willie Fortes. He is going to do a piece called How Planned Parenthood Saved My Life, written by Lisa Baker.
For some reason, Christine thought I would be great to read this. I'm still trying to figure that one out. So, to Lisa Baker, if you're out there on live, thank you for being generous with your story and for being generous in letting me read it, Christine. You may not have a friend after this. So I'm sorry for that. All right. Chances are, if you're reading this, you're probably already a Planned Parenthood supporter. I'm under no delusions that sharing my story will convince anyone that Planned Parenthood is a worthwhile organization that provides invaluable services to low-income women. I also don't think it should actually be necessary in this day and age to defend an organization that provides so much good to underserved communities. However, given the current political climate, boo! Yeah, boo! Fuck those guys! And the onslaught on fundamental rights, I felt compelled to write. I have not shared my entire story with anyone except for my family and closest friends. This is how Planned Parenthood saved my life. In December of 2013, I found a lump in my right breast. I had just turned 30, and I was about to move across the country for a new job. Woo woo! I did not have health insurance. I was fortunate enough to have some savings, and so under doctor's orders, I scheduled an ultrasound. The ultrasound indicated everything looked normal, but I was advised to have another in 6 months as a precaution. Of course, one thing led to another, and in 6 months it came and it went, and I still hadn't scheduled my follow-up ultrasound. In the meantime, I fell in love. I think we should clap for that. I moved back across the country to live with my boyfriend, who had just gotten a job in rural western North Carolina. Okay. But I did have a job and I had insurance. And when I was due for my annual gynecological exam in the spring of 2015, I found a local office in our small town. I brought my records with me, and the doctor suggested that I should have both an ultrasound and a mammogram. The imaging was scheduled for a few weeks later at a small regional hospital. When someone from the hospital called me 2 days before to pre-register me, she informed me that my insurance would not cover the mammogram or the ultrasound. But if I paid up front, they could give me a slight discount and it would only cost me $450. I didn't have $450 to spend. I was healthy, 31-year-old with no family history of breast cancer. I remember hanging up the phone and haranguing my boyfriend for a solid 30 minutes on the injustices of women's health care. He sympathetically listened, very supportive. After those completely underwhelming experiences, a simple Google search revealed a Planned Parenthood office right down the street from where I was working. I was extraordinarily nervous the first time I went in. I didn't know what to expect. I was raised Catholic. I had heard stories of Planned Parenthood, okay? And what seemed like such a convenient, genius idea a few weeks earlier was now a huge unknown. Would the facilities be dirty? Would there be sick people in the waiting area? What kind of people work in a clinic that makes no money? In short, I was being a judgmental idiot. My anxiety was completely unfounded. What a relief to meet warm, smart women who had my best interests at heart. Several months later, I was working part-time, making less money, had no health insurance. I had already scheduled my annual gynecological exam at Planned Parenthood without worrying about having to pay some ridiculous out-of-pocket fee. This became even more important when I found a lump in my left breast just under the skin. I explained a little bit of my history to the APRN, that's a nurse. She recommended a mammogram. When I sheepishly told her that I didn't have health insurance, she suggested the North Carolina Breast and Cervical Center Control Program, BCCCP. This extension of Medicaid helps low-income and uninsured women between the ages of 40 and 64 get mammograms. Because I was only 32, I had to do some extra paperwork, but I was able to schedule a mammogram and an ultrasound for free. The mammogram was first. It was going to verify what I already knew. The lump was nothing, and during the ultrasound, the technician told me the radiologist was looking at the mammogram films and would come in shortly to talk to me. When he came in, he confirmed that the lump seemed normal, but he felt that there was another area that looked suspicious. I had to come back the next day and have it biopsied. My biopsy was also covered by BCCCP. After waiting about a week, I heard from a nurse who confirmed that I had cancer. I tried to remain calm in a surreal moment. I met with a surgeon the following day to discuss what the next steps were. Over the next several months, I had genetic testing, another biopsy, 2 MRIs, another mammogram, 2 lumpectomies, and radiation therapy. I have to stay on medication that suppresses my estrogen levels for at least 5 years. Everyone I met in those months would ask about my family history, tell me how young I was, and sort of cock their head sympathetically to one side. My response was always the same. I am incredibly lucky. Because of Planned Parenthood, I was able to have a mammogram that found breast cancer at stage 1A rather than 2 or 3. I have no family history of breast cancer. There was nothing in my medical past history that would have led anyone to suspect it. I could have gone decades without getting any imaging. I still have to worry about reoccurrence, but my prognosis is good. I struggle with the side effects from medication, some discomfort around my scars, anxiety. When it feels overwhelming, I have to remind myself that I am fortunate. But it also makes me scared for the future. How many women will go undiagnosed as I would have without Planned Parenthood? How many women will struggle to afford life-saving screenings? How many women will have to die so a bunch of old, righteous white men can feel good? I stand with Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood stood with me.